dumb. My ancestors didn't, and I'm not. Nothing makes me more angry than a bunch of cowardly filth that think they intimidate us and think they control us. I'm calling your bluff, you criminal degenerate. And if you smash me like they smashed Colonel Travis at the Alamo, all that does is make the tree of liberty rise and smash you. Because in the final equation, that is my only goal. And I beg on the altar of God that he empower that same spirit he gave us that led to 1776 to sweep you aside, and that we persevere the slings and arrows and all the persecution and all the attacks and all the hate that you spew at us. We will defeat you, and our listeners will support us, and they will spread the word, and a tide is rising. An army is coming. An army of people with truth in their hearts and love in their eyes, but anger for evil. We are coming to defeat your New World Order. Make no mistake. With God's help, you can have your bought-off churches tell everybody it's the end of the world, and the New Agers think it's the end of the world in December. What it really is your takeover. But your New World Order was destined to fail from the beginning. I don't know what's going on with my computer. Baby, baby. I'm going to leave you. For this short break, and we'll be back. Baby, baby, I'm going to... Latest news up at Infowars.com. Bloomberg says police should go on strike nationwide until Americans surrender their guns. Since then, he's gone out on CBS News saying don't go on strike for tougher gun laws. That's the headline. He went on to say that he admits that it's illegal in New York, as we read to you earlier. Continuing, TSA has expanded its invasion to California train stations and bus terminals. We got video of 10 of them standing around with firearms and police dogs. Hardcore video up there. TSA now announcing they're going to stop you at checkpoints and download your smartphone data. They've got RIP software where it takes a few minutes to download it. So, I mean, you talk about beyond Nazi Germany, it's here. Now, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts is with us for the next 30 minutes or so, and then after that, I'm going to open the phones up for police, ahead of former Congressman Bob Barr joining us to talk about a host of issues. But I want to open the phones up after Dr. Roberts leaves us, former head of policy at the Treasury, former Wall Street Journal editor, and best-selling author, syndicated columnist. I want to open the phones up for police, because you know it's illegal to call for you to go on strike, so we turn our guns in. Just incredible that he said that on CNN. Michael Moore saying the founders didn't mean for us to have guns on there. I mean, this is incredible. So we're going to be going over all of that. But I wanted to get Dr. Roberts on about a week and a half ago, and he's now with us over an article that he did, The Collapsing U.S. Economy and the End of the World. A very powerful article at paulcraigroberts.org, mirrored at Infowars.com. But again, paulcraigroberts.org, a superlative website. Sir, I want to get into this, what you see happening in the world, the acceleration of naked tyranny, how bad you think it's going to get, because you saw this a ways off, but things seem to be accelerating. But first off, what do you make of Bloomberg and Michael Moore, and now we have Rupert Murdoch and Bill Kristol saying no one should be allowed to have semi-automatic firearms? I've never seen such a unified front against our guns.
Well, Alex, I've said it for a long time, and I would imagine you have too. An armed population is totally inconsistent with a police state. So now that they do have a police state, they're going to take away the guns. How exactly they'll go about it, one never knows. This latest movie theater shooting is so bizarre, it almost looks like it had to be orchestrated. And of course, these types of events very much play into the spin that's used to prepare people for having to turn in the guns. So I don't think Americans will much longer be allowed to be armed. They're going to be disarmed, because the only amendment left in the Constitution is a second one. If they can take away the right to due process, habeas corpus, the prohibition against cruel and unusual treatment because they now torture, if they can take all these away, they can take away the guns. And so it's just a question of them doing it. probably won't be much longer.
And people said, oh, they won't pass government health care. Oh, Obama won't sign NDAA. Oh, Obama won't put our military under NATO. It's all being done, and they've gotten rid of all the other 9 amendments, and they're trying to phase it in, but the Second Amendment still stands in the way. The minute they get that, it's going to be like the final, rock in the dam giving way, and it's just going to collapse into an orgy of corruption. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the Army admits the re-education camp documents that were made public 2 months ago. They said, yeah, that's ours. They admit they're training for gun confiscation. The Secretary of the Army said in the CFR, as you know, 2 months ago, he said, yeah, we want a brigade in every city of Marines and Army. I mean, it's all happening. What are they getting ready for, Dr. Roberts?
I don't know, but they certainly have a police state. It's in place. And we no longer have any rights if they don't want us to have them. They can bring any kind of charges against anybody at any time, or they can simply disappear them. There's no longer any protection against being thrown into a dungeon for the rest of your life without ever being told why you're there, much less a court being told, or a jury, or any evidence presented. So as far as I can tell, the Constitution no longer exists. There no longer exists any constraints on the power of government. And it's page is turned.
A lot of people are evacuating the United States. What do you think about that phenomenon?
Well, they've got good sense. If I wasn't so old, I'd do it too. And I think more people would be doing it if they could sell their property. But right now, you can't really sell anything. You have to give it away. So not that there's any really safe place to go. If you think about it, the United States claims that its law reaches every country. And if the country doesn't give you back, they'll be paid a bribe to do it. And if that doesn't work, they'll send somebody in to kidnap you and take you off.
Yeah, they've been doing that a lot now. Or they say they'll just have a drone kill you, even in a friendly country.
That's right. They'll kill you with a drone, or the local population. Once the power of the United States declines, the locals may turn on you because they'll blame the Americans for all the terrible things that are happening, the world depression or whatever, and there you be in the middle of them. So you might not even be safe in what's a friendly environment abroad once the power of the United States is seen to be eroding away, diminishing, which it has to do with the rate at which debt is pouring out, the rate at which the debt's being monetized. This has to put pressure on the dollar's value. And although the Federal Reserve is propping it up in many ways right now, these props can't last forever. So when the dollar's value falls enough that it gets abandoned as world reserve currency, the power of the United States will be dramatically curtailed.
What will QE3? I know the Federal Reserve has been hinting more at that. The Financial Times 2 days ago said it's probably coming soon, but they've held it off longer than some thought. You predicted they would hold it off longer. I remember that over a year ago, and they did. Most people said they would have it by the end of last year. What could precipitate what you call the end of the world? I mean, I've never seen you write articles about the end of the world.
Well, I'm trying to remember that article. I pointed out all of the things that were undermining the economic position of the United States and its NATO puppets. And of course, we see forming other blocks, for example, the BRICS, Brazil, India, China, Russia, South Africa are now forming to avoid the use of the dollar in their international settlements. So they're going to pay each other off or settle their balance of payments between each other in their own currencies. And there was a report recently that China and Japan have made the same agreement. So you can see there the second and third largest economies and the most important countries like Russia. Brazil's the biggest country in South America. South Africa, of course, is the dominant economy in that continent. And if they're all moving away from the dollar, then the demand for dollars has to fall. And
even though they're bought heavily into it, I mean, I guess they understand a great evil has risen.
Well, I think they see trouble coming with it, and they just don't want to be dependent on it. Because when it goes, there'll be a lot of dislocation.
Why are the Western elites giving away all their power in an orgy of power grabbing? I mean, they've got to know that they're going to end up in the final equation not winning this.
Well, I don't, as we talked about this before, I'm not so sure they know as much as you think they do. And I think hubris ran away with them. Look, Alex, when the Soviet Union collapsed, what did we have? We had the neoconservative response, the end of history, the utter total victory of the United States and capitalism. And so this just hubris ran away with them. They just became, without any kind of judgment or discernment. There was no alternative to America, period. And they've not gotten over that. They keep pressing it further. But so I don't think they'll be prepared for the outcome any more than Napoleon was prepared for the outcome of his invasion of Russia or Hitler. So people make fundamental mistakes. They get overconfident.
Well, I checked history. I've never seen Russian ministers, even when they were like totally red, say we're preparing to nuke you. And Medvedev and Putin are saying, you're encircling us, you're trying to overthrow our government, we're preparing to nuke Western Europe. And they've got their bombers flying back in, the submarines, and the military's funding al-Qaeda to attack Syria. I mean, this is insanity.
Well, it's insanity. It's part of the neoconservative drive for American hegemony. And it's part of the huge sums of billions and billions of profits the military security complex is making out of the American drive for hegemony. So you have their powerful interests who benefit from this insanity, and that's why they're doing it. They get, everything is short term. They think short term, and they're benefiting short term, and so they're leading the world to disaster because of their short-term focus. They've restarted the Cold War with Russia. They're starting it with China. All of the developments in the Pacific. The United States has announced that it's going to refocus its fleet in the Pacific, South China Sea. It's building new naval and air bases South Korea, the Philippines.
Stay there. I want to come right back with that and then get to other topics that are front and center on your radar screen. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, paulcraigroberts.org is our guest. And we're talking about the collapse of the U.S. economy and the end of the world. I guess they'll just put on black uniforms. Everything will be all right. All right, it's our final segment with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former head of policy at the Treasury, father of Reaganomics. Big publications have called him one of the top 10 living economists out there. I think, what is that, Money or Forbes? I forget. He's with us. We've got about 6 minutes left. Sir, we got some big breaking news after he leaves us. I'll just leave it at that. It's top linked on Drudge, our story. Right in the middle column. Looking at the Libor scandal and what's happened with that, just another admission of banks all over the world coordinating interest rates to rip people off. And then I saw the fine they had. It was like a tiny micron of the overall profit. I mean, this will collapse society if just lawlessness is legal. What's your take on that?
Okay, Alex, the fixing of the Libor rate is just part and parcel of the fixing of the interest rate by the Federal Reserve and the Bank of England. The purpose of the low interest rates is quite different from the spin in the news. It's not to rip people off or to let the banks borrow cheaper. When you have a lower Libor rate, it means that the prices of all of the debt instruments that are linked to Libor rise. The price of a bond or a debt instrument goes in the opposite direction of interest rates. So a lower Libor rate means the price of all of these derivatives and so forth that are linked to Libor, these floating rate instruments, those prices jump. And so since that's what